Today we tell the story of Eduardo Marturet. He's fire in a tuxedo, a hurricane with a baton, a maestro who moves like a frontman. Everywhere he goes, the music gets a new visa.
I suddenly realized I was a musician in another life. And then I realized who I was. A viola player in 1890. I even met Mahler. Sooner than later, I realized that I didn't want to become a banker.
And everybody has like a different starting point, so comparison is the thief of joy. As long as you are focused on just becoming better on what you are, it makes life just way easier and more enjoyable.
You couldn't really make a living out of music. My parents really got panicked. She tried so many times to persuade me not to. Miami is a different town. I realized that this community needed something different, strongly. In music, what is the ego? The ego is a little conductor that we all have inside. Conducting is the art of convincing 70, 80 musicians to do what you want and not what they want. It's a very strong leadership.
From your international career with tours with the Berliner Symphoniker, concerts across Europe, Asia, the Americas, collaborations with classical giants, Rostropovich, Pires, Rampal, you told us this. It was like a crash in my brain. I knew I was to become a musician.
You and I are close, and you've had a significant amount of loss in your life. You have a way of dealing with adversity, but you've lost your father. Mother, of course, passed away, and 4 of your siblings, Marianela, Gustavo Jr., Liz, and Luis. How do you handle that?
We have to be aware that we are here just passing by. Same way we cannot take anything physical. We're not here forever. I'm going to improvise music which describes Fred Menachem.
Welcome to Miami Unveiled. It's a show about the city that you think you know and the people that you've never truly seen. It's not the skylines, it's not the headlines. It's the real Miami, bold, bruised, and burning with dreams. Now, Miami isn't just a place. She's a force of nature. She carves you, she scars you, she tests you. But if you survive her, she makes you part of her story. Today, we tell the story of Eduardo Marturet. Eduardo doesn't just conduct orchestras, he orchestrates worlds. He's fire in a tuxedo, a hurricane with a baton, a maestro who moves like a frontman. He stood under 1,000 house lights, Berlin's cold blue halls, Caracas at fever pitch, Seoul electric at midnight, more than 50 orchestras, over 60 albums, a baton stamped like a passport. Everywhere he goes, the music gets a new visa. When he took the helm of the Miami Symphony Orchestra, the sound of the city shifted. He didn't just bring music, he brought motion, culture, chaos, flair. He fused Brahms with Burt Bacharach, Beethoven with Gloria Stefan, even opera arias colliding with Latin rhythms. A Miami sound born from collision, not compromise. That's where we met. I was brought in to raise money, help get publicity. He was brought in to raise hell. From the first conversation, we were in sync, like two characters out of the same script. Big energy, sharp lines, and both of us acting like we had top billing. But don't let the charm distract you. Eduardo's a builder, a visionary, not just a conductor, but the rare maestro who's also a CEO, the man who kept Miso alive when others thought it could collapse, and saw it recognized as the official orchestra of the city of Miami. He didn't lock the music inside a hall. He let it loose in the city. Bayfront Park on July 4th, 10,000 strong. Peacock Park, Doral Park, the design district from Little Havana to Little Haiti, Overtown to Doral, Hialeah and Wynwood, Coconut Grove, and Miami Beach. An orchestra for everybody. He took a legacy art form and he made it feel raw, modern, alive. He turned Miso into something that feels like this city, global, unpredictable, and unapologetic. Eduardo didn't just build an orchestra, he built Miami's soundtrack. He wasn't handed influence, he composed it. Miami named him one of the 100 most influential Latinos. Congress honored him with the Medal of Merit for reshaping culture with nothing but a baton, a vision, and a refusal to play it safe. Watch him on stage. It's not a concert, it's a storm. His baton is a blade, cutting silence open. His arms carve thunder, summon chaos, and then, in an instant, the storm collapses into stillness, a city holding its breath. He's carried real loss, parents, siblings, family gone too soon, and turned that grief into motion. His philosophy is simple: choose joy. Conduct each concert as if it were the last. Life is like a hotel. Don't take anything, enjoy it, and care for it. And through it all stands Atina, not just his wife, but his muse, his cultural partner, the love of his life. In this episode, we talk about art, ego, reinvention, and what it really takes to move an audience, a city, and a generation. This isn't a music story. It's a Miami story. It's a story about what it costs to belong here and what it means to survive. And if I sound like I understand survival, it's because I'm not just your co-host. I'm a son of this city too. And today, alongside my co-host, Eugenio, also an adopted son of Miami, we welcome not just the guest, but a dear, dear friend. This is the Miami and the Eduardo Marturet you never knew. This is Miami Unveiled, and we're your hosts, Fred Menachem and Eugenio Robaina writer. And today, I'm honored to welcome somebody who I love dearly, a dear friend, somebody very special to me, who turned Miami into a symphony. Welcome, Eduardo Marturet.
Welcome.
I love you.
Now sit and behave.
Here we go. All right. My God, it's hot. Man,
What?
you guys paying your air conditioning bill or what?
No, I think there's something wrong with the thermostat.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's great to see you, man.
Likewise. Wow.
I'm happy you're doing this.
What an introduction. How long did it take you to read all this? Wow.
You know,
Crazy.
I've written a lot of
The
introductions.
best thing it was, life is like living in a hotel. You can take nothing out of it. Mind you, my wife always takes the clinics and the soaps.
She takes the glove.
Well, that's not
Nothing.
bad. That's kind of like the sweet spot of what you should take.
Exactly.
But
So
what-
good to be here, guys. I love this program. It's becoming so famous. Wow. It's
Famous.
really,
Wow. Look at
it's really an honor. It's unique to be here with you guys.
It's very special to me. I know to both of us, and he's gotten to know you more recently. I've known you got over 20 years. I mean, we've spent a lot of time together.
Indeed.
I even went to only gringo you invited to Venezuela, I think, right? 2002, man. So anyway, how's it going, man? What's new? So
Fantastic.
catch us up. Like, what do you got going on right now? I know you have a few things going on. Just tell us.
Well,
what's
beginning my
happening.
20th season with Miami Symphony Orchestra, we have this fabulous place given by Craig Robbins from the Design District.
We love Craig. You know how much I love
We
Craig.
adore Craig, and he's been such an amazing benefactor for Miami Symphony. And look at this. Look at this. All this art by Maman Gallery is just unique. We rehearse here in this space. We have our offices. It's huge and really special. In the middle of the Design District, you just heard.
Well, that's when you're part of the city. You got to be in it.
Exactly.
Was there anything? This has kind of become like an odd tradition. I realized for me. Was there anything from that beautiful intro that only this man can carve that really spoke to you, that you haven't thought about even yourself and your journey and everything you've achieved?
Something that he hasn't said?
No, that was
No,
there.
what I
Like
said,
something that
anything that hit
really
you or
hit a
resonated,
nerve.
he's asking.
You're like, yes, I did that.
Well, I tell you,
You're humble, so I know.
it's nothing to do with being humble. It's to do with, I've learned through the years that when you're not really expecting something is when it comes. And it comes really like a blessing. So we all have to work very hard to keep up, also to work for other people we love. And we somehow get a reward eventually because we haven't wasted our time. And that's what I feel so good about being here in Miami with 20 years with Miami Symphony Orchestra, because when I came first, Fred was here. At the very beginning, it was, as I told my board, look, I accepted the position with the orchestra as long as they really supported me to make the orchestra honor the name of the city.
That's right.
And eventually we did. Now we are the official
So,
symphony orchestra.
excuse me, sorry. Well, why don't we go back a bit though? Let's kind of go back, man, back to the beginning. Talk a little bit about your upbringing. I know you were 8 kids, right? You were the 6th,
Four and four.
I believe, right? Your parents were in business, right? Banking and
Yes.
and other businesses. Your path was mapped, right? Corporate life, you were supposed to go into that. You were the son that they thought was gonna get into that, but you were playing drums at 4, right? You were a drum guy, right? Percussionist, right? Drums, piano at 7, composing at 9, and music became your quiet rebellion. So I think let's talk about your childhood a bit, right? Like, I
Happy
don't know, you've always
childhood.
said you had a happy childhood. Tell us about it.
Very happy. And in fact, this is a very important point to address, because over the years, I met so many artists, and especially artists were exceptional and who are so-called geniuses. But the main thing is for someone to have had a happy childhood. You happen to have a happy childhood. If your parents have the vision to make you happy while you're a child, you become a happy adult and you don't have the issues that other people do. It breaks my heart because some of the geniuses that I've met, they haven't had what you could call a happy childhood, and then they have a problematic.
But six kids? 6 kids, right? 8 kids, I'm sorry.
Four.
So how the years, I mean, how did you get attention? I mean, it had to have been difficult, right? You guys were all, I come from
That was
4.
part of it. No, my parents were very intelligent in that sense. They always made me feel like a normal kid, always. And very happy, and of course, well protected. Even the lies of the family, they made me believe in San Nicolas.
Made you feel what?
Believe in San Nicolas.
Oh, yeah? Really?
Of course. And not until very late I realized that San Nicolas was, a bit of a story. Or El Niño Jesús, or we call it in
Jesus Cristo.
The little Jesus, which is the one who brought you, presents and so forth. So it's fantastic that I had a very happy childhood, as I said, and that made me into a normal person. But of course, I had, like anybody, ambitions, and sooner than later, I realized that I didn't want to become a banker. Or
so talk a moment about, sorry, about the, I'm saying, sorry, you know what I'm saying, I don't know who I'm talking to, about your trajectory though. Boarding school, your parents thought you were going to be a banker, right? So the music started young. So talk about that trajectory. To Cambridge, to boarding school. I mean, how did that all manifest
when I
itself?
graduated in high school, I was supposed to go to university and make a decision if I'm going to study economy or whatever, or law. I said, look, let me spend 1 year in Cambridge polishing my English. And there, when I went to Cambridge to have this kind of sabbatical year off, I realized, oh no, I want to become a musician, which was a big shock for everybody, of course, because
Your parents.
Well, because in those days, I'm talking about 1973, you couldn't really make a living out of music so happily, so comfortably. Neither now. It's still a problem. But then it was very critical, and my parents really got panicked because, well,
Caviar.
my mother said, exactly, okay, go. Because she tried so many times to persuade me not to. I said, okay, but be aware we're not going to eat more caviar. Which made me bring up caviar every time I came from a tour. Yeah, so after Cambridge, after that year, I began officially. Until then, I didn't know a note of music. Everything was played by ear, which was also great because my connection with music was with popular music. And that made a fantastic combination when I then became a classical musician.
But I mean, by the time you went there, you were already in love with music. Like this.
Yes, always since I was 4.
What was that moment? Like, do you have that recollection of that moment when you're like, wow, like this is it? Like, you love this. Like, when did that first start? I mean, what was it, at 4? You were already at drums, 8 piano?
4, but now you're taking me to a different world. Because I suddenly realized that I was a musician in another life also.
Oh, yeah?
In another reincarnation, yes. I'm totally serious.
I like that.
Yes.
Oh, trust me, I know you're serious. I know you a long time, man. Go ahead, tell the story.
Well,
by the way, they're going to take him out in a straitjacket after this, but go ahead, please. Right? Go ahead.
I was in Vienna participating in a conducting course, and suddenly I find a composition by Haydn, and I realized that I played viola in Vienna, and then I realized who I was. I was a viola player in 1890 something. I even met Mahler. Can you imagine? I was a friend of Mahler. There was, of course, this is totally crazy. This is new. I've never spoken about this before.
Well, good. Look at that. First time.
First
Miami
time.
Unveiled with Eugenio Robaina and
Sure.
Fred Menachem.
You're really
Here we
persuading
go.
me correctly.
Right? All right. Go ahead, man.
Great. Yeah. So, but that in connection with when I was 4 years old, it makes sense now to me that why I was so connected with music, because to me it was like being born again as a musician. But of course, having been born around an environment which was non-musical made it quite different, which was fantastic, by the way, because for my music career, especially in Miami, I'm CEO of Miami Symphony, thanks to having come from a family of entrepreneurs.
And you're, by the way, sorry to interrupt you, but your parents, you were the one that they wanted to run the company, right? I mean, early on, right? That you were the son, the prodigal son they thought was going to run the banking business.
Well, no, my eldest brother was, but there were many other companies.
Gustavo was the eldest?
Yes,
Gustavo Jr. Okay.
Yes. But there were many other companies that my mother would have loved for me to do. And I did. I helped a great deal. But of course, I had to focus on music, which they were very kindly allowed me to. And it was fantastic.
But later in life, you did that. You actually did run the business, right? For a period of time.
Well, I was helping in parallel.
At least advised.
Yes, but I spent 10 years in Cambridge, though.
So
Yes.
Cambridge, let's get back to, I'm saying, so Cambridge, you had a lot of mentors there. And I think it's important because a lot of things happen there. You got some awards there, you didn't read a note of music, you go there, you worked with some significant people. I don't know, how did all that manifest itself and who were they? I mean, I think
it evolved slowly because after I spent that year polishing my English, then I got into school, studying music properly, and then I graduated in 78, 79 as a pianist, composer, and conductor, and then traveled all over the world and back to Venezuela, which was fantastic because I connected with the Sistema.
in Venezuela, right?
Yes, was very important with Jose Antonio Abreu, who was the one who supported me for the first time. It was absolutely fabulous.
But hold on a second. I remember, I want to tee it up kind of for the audience because you told us this story when we had the pre-talk of the show. And this was a turning point for you. You were in Cambridge. You were 18, if I'm right. You were hearing soprano Poppy St. Mary.
Yes.
Is that right? And you told us this. It was like a crash in my brain. I knew I was to become a musician.
Right there. I was only a month there, and suddenly when Poppy St. Mary was singing, I said, no, I had to be a musician. And I got really scared because I knew what it entailed. I'm making that decision, but I couldn't stop it. And it's funny because the conversation with my family was on written letters. Of course, there was no internet,
Right.
No email, of course, phones, but I had to communicate by normal post, which was very special. So
Hey, we did too. I'm not that. I mean,
yes, I keep track of all these fantastic letters where I told my mom that, look. And it was funny because when she received that letter, she locked herself in her room with my sister, and my sister's got, what's going on? Look, and my sister thought that I had made a girl pregnant. She was, no, he just wants to be a musician.
It's like, it's worse. Latino and Hispanic families' parents will tell you straight up, that's not a way to make a life.
Exactly.
And you absolutely did it. So we're moving. So we're already moving back to Venezuela?
Well, I actually wanted to say something because, I've known you a long time. God, I've known you a long time. And you are somebody that, we've talked about this. You put a positive spin on everything. You've had pain like everybody, right? But you manage to sometimes, you joke, but you're a very serious person. I know you, and very deep and complex. I'm giving you a compliment. Look at me like
Is that it? A compliment?
Kind of, I don't know, in some weird
Thank
Fred Menachem way. But at the end of the day, you make it sound so easy. I'm talking about the musical path, but clearly there had been obstacles along the way. It couldn't have been so easy. I mean, you came from Venezuela by yourself. You go to Cambridge, right? Very close family. You hadn't really learned to read music. You're just, playing. I mean, come on, talk about that. It couldn't have been, so easy the way you make it sound.
But it was, Fred. It was very, very easy. It was like if we believe in the reincarnation story, it had just happened just like that. And even when I began to study conducting and get supported by these teachers, these mentors who supported my conducting, it was really like a deja vu, something happening again and again. And that's why for me, it has been such an amazing journey. Now I've been conducting for 52 years.
Almighty.
Yes. And besides the 20 years as conductor in Miami, and the experiences are absolutely fabulous, really.
Do you ever get nervous up there? Or it's just second nature? Is it just adrenaline, fun?
No, I love it. Mind you, I'm a different person on the stage.
It's an alter ego on some level.
I lived the crazy conductor on the stage. Otherwise, my wife wouldn't support me. Really, it's a really the ego goes really crazy, and I wouldn't be able to bear myself if I brought.
Well, impossible to replicate that emotion out of the stage.
Well,
right?
and it's dual, exactly, it's dual, yes, totally dual. So I let myself go and I become somebody else. This is not the guy, the conductor's not here. He's a normal person.
Well, it is the guy, it's part of who you are. But, on some level, I relate to that. I think for me, and tell me if this is the case for you, sometimes because we get into an alter ego, right? We're doing, performing, creating. For me, it's always been a struggle to kind of drop that ego at times, right? And get out of it, of course, because it's adrenaline and it can feel, has that been something that challenged you over the years? You got better at dropping it? Was that an issue at all?
No, because it somehow went smoothly. Although my eldest sister, who happened to be a ballerina, and she was a fantastic personality, just gave me the clue once and said, "What's going on with you? What's it just, you look, do you think you're a star? Come on. You leave the conductor on the stage." And she gave me that clue. Of course, I have to do that. I have to leave the conductor on the stage. She was a fantastic person to give me that advice. And I followed it. That was the very beginning of my career. And,
what was the first performance that you ever remember that it felt like it had weight, that you're like, oh, wow, like that was big enough, or that like kind of like shook me, or like really gave me an emotion that I haven't felt? What was that first that you're like, wow?
The first time I conducted, the first time ever, I said to myself, wow, this is it.
Where was that?
In Cambridge.
In Cambridge?
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
Performing for whom?
Performing my own music with my own colleagues, yes. Yes, it was because I was also a composer. I am a composer. So I had to play my own music. And then my fellow composers, friends asked me to conduct their music. And that's how I became a conductor, because I was conducting everybody's compositions of my school, though. Yes.
So at Cambridge, you were playing piano, right?
Oh, yeah.
You never intended to be a conductor.
Well, I initially started as a pianist, as a percussionist. I learned other instruments, but of course, then my teachers saw that conducting was my major talent, and composition, both. So, but again, in the world of music, it turns out, in my case anyway, that conducting, I could be more successful as a conductor. And also, ego-wise, is very important, because it's better to be a conductor who composes than a composer who conducts.
Oh, interesting. Why? Why is that?
Oh, because if you are a conductor, the ego is on the conductor, and the composer is a happy fellow. You see?
Right.
He doesn't have to worry about having his music being played. And so it's much more fluent. And I've been really lucky in that sense with composition. I've done a lot of, just finished, I told you, a major work for the CONCACAF.
Oh, yeah, talk about that for a moment, because it's amazing what's going on.
Yes, they just commissioned me the anthem for the CONCACAF.
And we're revealing it right. Okay.
This is new. Yes, it's coming just right now. And I insisted I want to record it with Miami Symphony. It was fantastic. And they loved it. It was such an opportunity. You're going to hear it soon. I hope you can also put it here, because it's...
I can't wait.
Any moment.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And that, let's, if we can, it's interesting you brought that up, because I think that
the CONCACAF is the football club now.
Yeah, no, of course. If you want to, for the viewers and listeners who don't know, right? You want to tell them what it is?
No, you tell them.
It's the football club. It's the European. Right? It's a pretty significant football.
The American, Canada, Mexico,
right?
The Caribbean. Yes.
Exactly, it's a significant thing, and really that's been the nature of your career. And I want to kind of start with Venezuela, but because you've always been somebody that was never afraid to merge different sounds. And I think that that's interesting, right? You've pop with classical. It's...
Yes, but that's something that Miami taught me. Interesting.
Oh, so, okay, we'll get
to...
Okay.
Because thanks to the fact that I was, before I became a classical musician, I had this experience with pop music, as a intuitive artist, so to speak, throughout my teens. Thanks to that connection, when I came to Miami, I said to myself, wow, this is something we have to take really good care of, because having been all over the world not conducting, I realized that this community needed something different. in terms of symphonic music. Why? Because Miami is a different town. This town lives in the present. In a Buddhist
Because
concept.
it's only 130 years old, the entire
No,
community.
it lives in the present because it has so many things to do. You take a decision at the last minute. You don't do like in New York, you buy tickets for a concert 3 months in advance. No, you buy tickets 3 minutes in advance.
So I think it goes back to like the people that are going through here. Like now it's changing. A real community beyond, like a smaller group is like it's evolving and it's investing in the city and it wants to see it grow. But like we talked about before, like all of us that are I'm coming from Mexico. I came from specific reasons that I needed to move out and find opportunity. And I say that because that transient community that doesn't know where they're gonna be tomorrow, they're very much in the present.
Exactly. And because there are so many options here to do, you can do whatever, go by helicopter to the Everglades, this, here and that, and you can decide at the last minute what to do. So I realized, when I conducted in Berlin, it was very different, or New York, or in Caracas. No, I have to give this community something that they really are attracted strongly. So I began to combine really classical with pop music, or pop music, as I call, from Beethoven to Celia Cruz.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But that was the very beginning when we met, right?
Of course, it was amazing. And there was a fusion, and I think because... And I want to just for a moment.
Getting ahead, right?
Yeah, well, no, it's okay because I think some of this we can pass. We can quickly. And I think Miami, he segued into it, and I think it would actually be good. But yes, we had first met, and I think the orchestra. And we'll talk about this in a moment. Needed a bit of energy behind it, and we'll get into that.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And thanks to that we became to had a very wide public, many different. And interestingly enough, 10 years later, or 15 years later, now everybody's copying that model around the world, and especially in the United States. Why? Because they realize this is what it is. Even Dudamel, my great friend, he just played with Coldplay.
Oh, that's
in
right.
London, yes.
So you heard it here. Eduardo Marturet started a trend in Miami,
yes.
and now the world is following. So, but no. What's that? Go ahead, please.
So I wanted to ask, Fred is about to segue into the time in Venezuela and what all that triggered once you went back, but so England, Italy, first formal training, mentors encouraged you to conduct, and then that came. But before we get there, I think for all of the people that will listen to this that are not that acquainted with this world, can we hear from Eduardo Marturet, what is your most simple definition or how you would explain what a maestro, what a conductor truly does? Because everybody sees it, everybody sees that, hey, at the end of the day, they're orchestrating the whole thing. But I think the majority of people would stumble to truly explain this in a very accurate way.
Well, I tell you, in a rather secret philosophical way, conducting is the art of convincing 70, 80 musicians to do what you want and not what they want.
Love that.
It's a very strong leadership. He's very political, if you come to think of in the good abstract way, not in the controversial way. It's the capacity to persuade. In the case of conducting, you have to persuade with a lot of conviction, with love, and to make them realize that inside them there is a little bit of you too. So, and what is in music? What is the ego?
What is the ego?
In music.
Is that a rhetorical question?
Yes, the ego. The ego for the orchestra. The ego is a little conductor that we all have inside.
Oh wow! Listen
Yes.
to that. All right.
Indeed. I don't want to define what the ego is in other areas because I don't want to get in trouble. Because you could say
Latina or
from some nationalities.
Okay, fine. Right.
But,
Here we go. Right, exactly.
But in the orchestral world, I believe the ego is that, and that's
In everything, Eduardo, is it really just the orchestra?
no, that explains because every musician, when they look at conducting, they're playing for him or for her, they believe they can do it as well. And that's the art of conducting, to convince that you are actually doing it the right way. And they have to follow you. That persuasive leadership happens in
everything
in the world, right?
Yeah. It's a beautiful answer.
Who are some of the, actually, on a side note, because I grew up, I always had my ups and downs with classical music. My mother, shoved in our ears, right? My sister's sitting over there; she could tell you, and Arthur Fiedler, Itzhak Perlman, all of that. And who are your like conductors that you just really admire historically? You don't have to give me every one, but I'm just
Well,
curious.
there's so many. I mean,
Is that a tough question, man? Did I catch
from
you?
my generation, Dudamel is one of my great friends, and I admire him so much. Mind you, it's very funny because the other day I said, "Do you envy Dudamel?" No, he's my brother. He's my friend. Mind you, I do envy him in what? What? Well, he can have a cigar with his wife, and I can't.
Who's that?
That he can have a cigar with his wife, and I can't have one with mine.
Why not?
Right, because Athena doesn't smoke.
And Atina's Atina doesn't play around. Trust me.
Exactly.
I love her to death, right? But you don't. If she says no, you just right.
That Dudamel smokes?
We'll join you for
Right.
a cigar.
Yes.
So I think, listen, we started talking about Miami. Let's just go for a couple minutes or a few minutes into Venezuela and then the world, because look, you obviously had a significant career in Venezuela. Caracas is your home, but at the same time, you've lived so many places. I mean, after boarding school, you sort of were a man of the world. But why don't you talk for a moment first about Venezuela, and then let's get in a little bit to the Europe, Berlin Symphonic, or just kind of give that trajectory, because that's pre-Miami. And then, let's get into dig deep in Miami. But
After I graduated in music, I went back to Venezuela. I became the music director of the National Symphony, Orquesta Sinfónica Venezuela. It was a great privilege for me because I was the youngest music director ever there.
31, right?
Yeah.
Is this the Teresa Carreño?
And then I became president of Teresa Carreño. Exactly. I opened it and
Youngest ever, right?
yeah, and then conducted the youth orchestras and the Promel Sistema. Yeah, but of course, immediately I had to travel a lot again internationally, and that's what my wife said, that we lived in a suitcase. So
Which Athena, right?
Athena.
Of course. Which
That's
I
the
want
only
to talk
one-
later
that's the
about.
only one I had.
I know you had a jealous girlfriend at one point, because I know that story, right? The jealous girlfriend. But let me stop you
So
for a.
that's when we decided
No,
to
finish the story. I just thought, go, please. My ADD was kicking in, please.
finish which story?
You don't even remember the story. Typical ADD too. So anyway, you were talking about Athena in the suitcase, and then I interrupted you, but that's okay. I want to go back to something you said. You talked about the youth orchestra. Now, something I think that's very important to talk about is that you believe deeply in mentoring the youth and the next generation. You said it there, and I think that it's sort of at your core who you are. So why don't you talk about why it's so important to you, and how you're involved with that?
Well, first of all, this organization was the one who gave me my first opportunity as a conductor, as a professional conductor, El Sistema, José Antonio Abreu. And then I began to support them as well. And the truth is that after 50 years of El Sistema, they're all over the world. We, Miami Symphony, have one of their franchise, the official, in South Florida. And we are so proud of it because it has become really the best example, a structure to teach youngsters, to teach youth. It's absolutely fabulous. And it has been proven that if you study music, whether you become a professional or not, the likelihood of becoming a criminal is very low.
Really?
Yes. Except in your case.
Well, I studied music. I was never good at it.
Your case is the exception.
Exactly, right? Okay, well, I can handle that, right? Right. You see your wallet, by the way?
Sorry?
Check your pocket. You see your wallet?
No, I know. You have it.
So, I mean, Venezuela was for you like from early compositions of Venezuelan film scores, right?
Yes.
Like I have here Oriana, Manuel Sáenz, Francisco de Miranda, award-winning. Then from Caracas, then you ended up going to Berlin, to Seoul. We call it as music as a passport and a bridge.
To Holland, a lot in Amsterdam.
But a lot was done here, like from your international career with tours with the Berliner Symphoniker, concerts across Europe, Asia, the Americas, collaborations with giants, classical giants, Rostropovich, Pires, Rampal. Like, what kind of is close to your heart that your mind goes back to most during that stage of your life? Because a lot was achieved. Like those were like heavy progress of your life. in your career?
Well, I think the moment where I could be really with the musician that I love and I admire and have the time to share experiences, because the problem that this world is so active and so crazy that you work, and you never have the time to relax and have a reflection on what you've been doing.
Let the soul catch up with the brain.
Exactly, catching up and really being lucky enough to have time to reflect on what we've been doing. Otherwise, it's far too busy, and it's very important. You know why? Because music, first of all, is as an art, it has to be an emotion. It has to come from your emotional side. We have two sides in our body, which people somewhat ignore. We have a magnetic and an electric part.
Okay.
Okay, but this is scientific. This is not.
Yeah.
And it so happens that we are far too connected by the electrical part of ourselves. It's like yin and yang, like positive and negative in a battery. It's exactly the same. And because of the world we live in, which is totally electric, and electric in your body is your rational thinking, all
Neural
this.
connections.
Well, the magnetic is your heart.
But it's not necessarily irrational thinking, the heart. It's just intuitive thinking and emotive
Well,
thinking.
that is magnetic energy.
I mean,
No. Okay, well, because
Hey.
you use more magnetic energy than other people, maybe. You see.
Thank you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So my point is that for music, but not only for music, for everything in life, but for music especially, you cannot play, you cannot act if you're an actor or an actress. If you don't have the emotional part of it active, because then it's very rational, then because it's no good. Somehow the brain of the receiver of your audience is connecting to that, and then people do like. That's why some music doesn't have the effect. Why? Because it's not been made the right way, or art in general, or performance of any kind, or a TV program with the news. If you're not authentic, if you're not really connected with your truth,
Sure.
and that's the balance between magnetic and electric energy. In our website, in our YouTube channel, the Miami Symphony Orchestra YouTube, there's a whole video when I talk about that. It's very important. And if you touch your pulse, like this or like this, you're connected with your heart, and immediately are balancing your magnetic and electric energy.
So
I tell you. And that again, I never talk about these. What did you guys? You make me talk the crazy
I'm a very
things,
emotive person. You feel the energy, right? I'm actually much calmer today than normal, aren't I?
To what?
I'm much calmer today than normal. Am I not?
I'd say so.
I know. Look at that, man. So I think, look, let's move on, because really, Miami's the crux of what this, podcast really is about, right? And speaking through your lens. And you certainly have a Miami story. Now, first of all, you really came here. Well, let me say this. You came here as a kid, 5 years old, and you went to the Everglades. You took a ride in Key Biscayne, if I remember correctly, 5 years old, and you had this weird premonition that you'd be here one day. Is that true?
But I wasn't 5 years old.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I was 5 years old when I went to the Everglades with my parents.
Ah, okay.
But I went into Key Biscayne driving. I rented a car because I had to stop in Miami to take another flight to France. At that date, there wasn't a direct connection from Caracas for whatever reason. And as I was driving in to Key Biscayne, I had the feeling of everything that was going to happen after. It was a huge...
Wait, how old were you again?
I was 23, 24.
Were you alone in the car, or were you with someone?
No, I was alone because I was coming to my mother's apartment in Key Biscayne. I'd never been there before, because before we had one in Pompano. And then it was like a shock. I said, something is going to happen, and it did.
Just randomly driving through Key Biscayne?
Well, because I had to,
yeah, of course,
to spend the night in. And of course, the connection with the symphony is because Miami was my vacation spot for many, many years. I didn't consider Miami to be a place to work.
And a lot of people, right? A lot of people,
like
right.
a lot of people. And then, as I was telling you earlier, 20 years ago, they offered me this job, and Athena, my wife, loved it. Yes, we traveled too much. Perfect. Let's settle down.
Right.
And it was weird because to me, Miami, for us, Miami was a place to have fun, not to work. But it turned out to be the place for both.
Yeah, because you met me, so.
That helped a lot. You know why? Because when you meet crazy people, everything changes.
I'm as eccentric as you. What do you think? Who wins the award? Right. Who's the most insane? What do you think? Depends on the day.
I don't want to go into it.
Okay, we'll skip that. We'll skip that part. We'll talk about that later. But that's a good look. I think this is such an important story. You know, you come to Miami, never thinking that this would be a community
Never.
where
No.
you would really. I mean, you came from big orchestras, Berlin Symphoniker, you know, Soul, and you walk in, and I know the story. I was part of it, right? You walk in, 2004, right? It was a community orchestra. There was very little money. You had Judy Drucker with the Cleveland Orchestra. You had the New World Symphony. You had a lot of egos involved, you know, all that stuff. You come in very, you know, well-trained, Cambridge. I was always surprised, right? You come here and no money, right? Very little money, $500,000 in a budget, very difficult. Some musicians, it was hard to pay them. You had to build this thing. And so before we even get into how it was built, what possessed you? Because I never asked you that. I know a lot about you. Why did you decide to do it?
Well, Maestro Manolo, who was the founder of the Symphony,
Of course.
when he asked me to take a position as his associate, because he was still conducting, he really convinced me, because I fell in love with the musicians, with the orchestra, and I knew they needed help. Sadly, very soon after, in 2006, he passed away.
Yep.
And so I had to take over, and that's when I demanded of my board that they have to work with me together to make the orchestra that really honors its name, Miami. And it evolved. It took us not 20 years, but at least 15 years to make it into what it really is now. And in all senses, not only artistically, but financially too. And of course, we had key people helping us tremendously. Like I was telling you, Craig Robinson, this Miami Design District.
Craig's the best.
Oh,
So committed to this community.
absolutely.
Successful from a business perspective, and he loves to talk business, but he's all heart.
Yes, Emilio Estefan, who believed in
And
us
now
from
the chair, of
and
course.
he's now our chairman. Emilio was really, his vision was the best. And many other people who have come along, like you, Fred. You helped me as well. You
Well,
did.
thank you. Why don't we talk about that for a moment, how we started? Oh, but go ahead. You were going to say something nice. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please continue.
Oh, you're so humble.
You know, low self-esteem with inferiority complex. Anyway, go ahead. Right.
No, you were a great help from the very beginning, and you had that vision. And you connected me with a lot of people who I didn't know, because you knew them, I didn't. And it helped a lot, and we got better and better. Then, of course, you got busy in other things which were more important for you, which I respect.
It was never more important for me. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story just to add in some you know, not too many details, but how, you know, we started. You come in, I meet you, right? It was complicated. Not a lot of dollars, $500,000 budget. There was like sometimes hard to pay. And so I came in with a vision. You were also had the same creative mind as I did. And it was just intuition. There was never a strategy laid out, right? So I said, I just operate intuition, right? One day we have to get money and we have to turn that money into publicity, right? We have to do both. How do you compete with the New World Symphonies of the world and all these people with money? Well, the way you compete is by, instead of going through the front door, you go through the side door and the back door, right? And I say that, when I say that, I mean, you can't compete with the dollars, but you can compete with, it's how I started getting money. I remember going from commissioner to commissioner, $10,000 discretionary money, this and that. But that brought the politicians in to pay attention to what we were doing. I started going to the reporters. Remember this book we found with all this stuff? And, you know, we started getting media and creating a buzz. But then we decided together about, hey, let's start, you know, make this a purview of the masses. Right. And you can talk about that now. Inner city, you know, going to other neighborhoods. What I'm saying is that's what made us different. We couldn't compete financially yet, but instead of doing in the same way, trying to stay on the same page, we went and did things that they weren't doing. And people started noticing.
But it's important to point out that strategically, I never thought of this as a competition. I always tell my students that this career of conducting has to be taken like it's like a racehorse, but you're racing on your own track. You're not racing with anybody else. And here in Miami, I never saw any of this constitution you're mentioning.
You didn't, but I did.
Never thought of competitors. No, because if you do, you somehow, even in life, if you feel a competition with someone and you're giving that person or that organization energy that you shouldn't be giving away.
That's true.
So you have to feel, and that's why we succeeded, because we don't get, we all have to live in this world. And there's a nasty expression in Spanish. I don't know the translation. Quítate tú para ponerme yo. Okay? You get out for me to put in your place. And that's very Miamian though.
And everybody has like a different starting point. So comparison is the thief of joy.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Okay, wow.
exactly. Say it again.
Comparison is the thief of
That's
joy.
going to be a clip.
Exactly.
I
I believe, Eugenio, this is it. Because if you begin to, they all deserve their own place. And the World Symphony has a fantastic place. The Florida Grand Opera, with whom we have a fantastic relationship too, all of us. But that's why we have our own presence, and we are very strong and very successful.
Yeah. I mean, and I said that also because you were going in that direction. It's also for life. Like, as long as you are focused on just becoming better on what you are, and obviously competition is something that you need to be aware of, but it makes life just way easier and more enjoyable, I think. And it's also more clear. But talking about Miami, so you're here, what's it been, 16 years of building?
20
years of building.
21, man.
No, I'm beginning my 20th season now.
Okay.
And MISO was proclaimed, by the way, Miami Symphony Orchestra proclaimed official orchestra in 2022?
Yes.
Of the city of Miami.
Of the city of Miami. Boards led by figures like Diaz Ballard, Emilio Estefan, but
Bob Rodriguez, Eduardo Sarasola, they're crucial people for our success. Rafael,
we should actually give credit where credit is due, because Rafael Diaz Ballard, from the beginning,
yes,
very committed,
30 years with the orchestra, yes,
and special person,
indeed,
and truly committed, and much credit goes to him for all his years of hard work and his commitment, and he's a dear friend to both of us.
Course, yes. And Roberto Rodriguez, Eduardo Sarasola, Peggy Garcia.
Oh my God!
The board has been really, thanks to these guys, it's been very.
In the early days, Tony Mijares,
Jerry Haar,
Jerry
Haar.
Oh, that's right. But they also helped fund right at the beginning. They helped fund my salary actually at the beginning, right? Yes. But seriously, everybody pitched in and did their part.
Yes. My concert master Daniel Andai has played an important role as well. Yes.
And that's it. By the way, I think the point is that's a community effort, right? That's Miami. And that's the Miami we're trying to highlight, the Miami that comes together. It's not just about going out and all that some people think. It's a Miami that had to come together.
But amongst all that, you had a vision and you had the resilience to push it through, which was a strategy about break that ivory tower that is very common in this world. And I'm talking about the design repertoire, which you were talking about earlier. Make it for the community. Like, you could flirt with pop and do no damage. And I mean, talk a little bit about that. I think that's at the core of what's allowed the MISO to actually attract all these people and make it what it is today.
Because we began to realize too, with one of our major members of the board, Fernando Duprat, a great producer, that we had to combine also music with video, with movies. And we began to develop a concept, Evening in Vienna, and Golden Sounds from Hollywood, that connected with the visuals. And that was tremendous help, Eugenio, to begin again, to give our audience a different perspective of what music can do. And we began to do that 15 years ago. Now it's totally normal in the orchestras around the United States, but 15 years ago it wasn't. And that also helped a lot. Mind you, we had support also from theaters like the Art Center. When the Art Center began in 2006, which Miami Symphony was participated in the acoustic testing of the theater, and the acoustic technician was one of my greatest friends. It showed that we had unlimited potential having a theater of that quality, of that force. And that's why, we can make it.
But that strategy, was it conceived, like, was that something that you had, that vision? Like, was it a group of people that you were talking about it? Like, how did that come together? Because it's very effective. Like the design repertoire and just go beyond.
How did we do that?
Yeah, like who came up with this idea?
I was.
Yeah.
And choosing the right people to support me on that. And of course, for example, we began to play at the Moore building, which now is called the Moore Club.
Right.
Yeah.
We have a
Craig is one of Craig's.
we have very strong connection with the Moore Club now. And before the Moore Club became a club, we played a lot there. Sarah did, which is a great sculptor, great friend of ours. I wrote music for her. And we played in all different places, as we were mentioned before, Fred, open air concerts, which again were unusual for a symphony orchestra to play, Eugenio, open air. We do a lot of those because we go out for the public. And they really connect with us. It's very strange. Now I go to anywhere, post office, supermarket, airport, and have people come in to say hello and to thank me for what I do. I get shocked that they are so much aware of
Especially in an orchestra, right? Of course.
Yes,
right?
and that's what gives me an idea. Okay, well, after all, we did it.
Yes, and before we get to you did it, because it's not done yet, still growing, right? Eventually, the next generation, right, passing that baton. But before we get there, I wanted to, because we didn't talk much about it, and I think it's an important trajectory to talk about. You come here, generally traditional classical music, top orchestras in the world, Europe, and I have a lot of questions here, Miami and why, but I wanted to say two things because you did something very different. There's a lot of cultures here, right? And that had to play into making the Miami Symphony go on its own path. And also Miami being, you talked to me last night, we were talking, we always talk, but last night we were chatting, late last night, and you were talking about, Miami and how it's such a unique community. And
oh yes, I told you Miami was the closest city to the United States.
Right, but how you merged all the pop, that was something different. That's really what took the pop, the opera. Yes. That uniqueness is really what helped take the orchestra to where it is today, right? So talk about that. Was that uncomfortable to do it? It was new for you? What experience, what influenced it? And how did that manifest?
It was the only ticket. I realized as soon as I arrived here 2 years ago, that was the only way, Fred, but we could make it. To break this rule that symphonic music has to be classical all the time. No, not in Miami. That's why, again, I said it's the closest city to the United States.
But you're a music snob on some level, no?
Say again?
A music snob on some level before you came here? I mean, mixing pop with, classical.
No, because as I told you, I spent all my teens, all my
That's
youth
true,
playing pop music. No. In fact, that helped a lot because I have no prejudice against popular music. I see them all blending very well. In fact, that's why I get along so well with superstars like Gloria Estefan, who she really appreciates and understands that I play popular music differently. Why? And I tell you something that you never heard before.
Oh, here we go.
Again, because popular music usually plays with a metronome. You know what a metronome? A click track.
Okay.
And I break it. I don't play with a click track. Even pop music.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, I make it flexible. And even Gloria the other day said, wow. We're playing at the wedding of a great friend of ours. And she said, why do you do this? Nobody does it. Of course not, because we're all slaves of the click track. And when you break it, it's like what I was saying before about the brain and magnetic and electric energy. Once you change the structure of something, your brain immediately comes to it. And that even happens in pop music. If you have the guts, if you dare to do it. You have the
guts. So I know we want to talk a little bit about the man with the baton and God, wish we had more time. But I'm sorry, the man with, right, exactly.
I left the baton at home, sorry.
But I wish we had hours for this. But before we do that, kind of just walk us through, just briefly, where's the orchestra today? Emilio's chairing, just quick, where it is today and where it's going, in the next few years, because I know you're committed till 2026, or 2032, excuse me. So just a quick, trajectory of what you've accomplished and where it's going?
Well,
And-
thanks to the team that we have, another key board member is Marco Santana, president of many organizations connected to TV productions. He did La Reina del Sur, Señor de los Cielos, and we did for him,
right.
we did the music, and we won 2 Emmys. And we began to, thanks to,
That's
to
right.
Marcos, to develop this project, which is to record music commercially for many events and companies. And now the orchestra has evolved into a recording industry, so to speak. And we are really lucky because it's another source of income for us. Like I was saying also, this CONCACAF anthem we recorded, and the orchestra had received funds for that.
Oh, so you did that not personally. That was part of the orchestra that you right.
No,
Because it was-
I was commissioned to
No, I
write
understand, but
to,
you
to
use
write
the
the music,
musicians.
but then the orchestra, of course,
because you benefit because that's giving
Of
back
course.
to the musicians who
yeah.
also
The orchestra made some very good money out of it. Of course, CONCACAF have the vision to be a sponsor as well. But again, nowadays we have so many opportunities that happen. Movies. I have been a composer of music as well, but we have great composers and a team. Rodner Padilla is one of the great composers and a great performer of electric bass and producer. He has produced music with us. And so we have a great team, Fred. And my job, my duty is to make sure the orchestra keeps safe and also financially strong for the next 50 years,
Right.
way beyond my tenure.
of course.
Okay.
And that's
And yours
So-
too.
so we're going to transition now because God forbid. I mean, I hope it lasts a bit longer than my tenure on this earth. But thank you very much.
Yes.
Right. So let's transition a bit. Segue. We have a
So
Sorry.
we wanted to get into the man behind the baton, as we called it here, this segment. And the premise here is beyond the accolades, love, positivity, a philosophy of life. But we've talked about one of your loves in your life, which is music. It's at the core, but it's your other love, probably your most important love, with Athena. And we know the story. You told the story about those serendipitous meetings, those jealous girlfriend before that, reconnecting, and all of that. Give us a little bit of that substance, which, if you will, it was a great story of how you guys connected and how you ended up together.
Yes, we met quite a while ago. We've been married for quite a while too. She doesn't like me saying how long. But quite
jealous
a while.
girlfriend at all. Right. When you first met. No, not her. I mean the other girlfriend. No, when you first met.
No, but that's a
right.
silly
No,
story.
I know. We're not going to tell the story now, obviously, but
As
right.
you know,
if we had
that
more
was gonna
time,
happen,
right? But
you know.
right.
And he's been definitely the love of my life, absolutely, together with music. And also one love that I have had always, I love animals.
That's right. Horses.
I adore horses.
Fish.
Since I was a child, I had horses in my life. And I love dogs. We don't have children, but we have 2 Chihuahuas. We adore them.
Hey, those count.
And your beagle died not too long ago, right?
And,
Sorry.
And my beagle died when I was very, very young too. In fact, my beagle died when there was a huge earthquake in Caracas.
Oh, it was that long? Oh, I thought, okay.
And
You still talk about that.
and
beagle,
it
yeah.
disappeared. The dog disappeared on the earthquake. The animals perceive the energy of earthquake when it's happening, and somehow I still remember his name was Pili, my dear beagle.
So just 2 quick things that I wanted to ask you about, then I'll pass it over to Fred to wrap up. But you told us that your metric of wealth is health, love, and happiness. Is that right?
Totally. That's health is the most important.
Yeah.
To if you are healthy, just you're the richest person on earth. Really. And of course, happiness connects with it because you cannot be healthy if you're not happy. Right? No.
No, of course
No
not, no.
way. You have to be happy to be healthy.
The last thing I wanted to ask you here is we've talked about Miami, and obviously this show is a lot about Miami and the people who've really architected and shaped it in more ways than one. You told us you hope that Miami residents and newcomers cherish the city and respect it as their own. You want to add a little bit to that?
Yes, that's a very important point. I think if we as Miamians would live here, somehow get whatever people don't really appreciate. This is not just a passing by city. That, of course, is very seductive. It's fantastic to come here and enjoy it. Like how many times we go to other cities in the same fashion. But Miami deserves some more respect because somehow it's not taken really.
Let's take that energy that we have right
Exactly,
now,
it's
because
taken
in the
for
world
granted,
stage,
and indeed, and we have to somehow protect it as our city in many ways.
Directed.
From driving correctly.
Good luck with that one, right?
Yes.
Right. Good luck with that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
shout out to I-95,
Right.
Absolutely.
Turnpike.
Even when you park, you have to be educated.
I do want to, just before we wrap up, I did want to ask you something. And I know we've spoken about this, but you joke a lot like me, right? We joke with each other, but you're a very serious guy. And you've learned in your life how to deal with difficult situations and adversity, but you've had a lot of loss. That's the reality. It's not something you talk about a lot, but your father died when you were 18. I always related to that because my dad was 20. But not only that, your mother passed away, I think, around 2004. Marianella, Gustavo Jr., Liz, Luis, four siblings, making me cry thinking about it. But seriously, recently, one of them recently, you know, I know that we've talked about this a lot, and I push you sometimes. You know that because I care. And I also am jealous sometimes and admire you because I used to think that you were just covering up the pain, you know what I mean, and ignoring it. I mean, it's obviously difficult, of course, but you truly have a philosophy, which I'm not going to say, you know what it is, the philosophy about joy. And first of all, how did you deal with that grief? And then what's the philosophy? Because you don't let it destroy you.
But I think, as you said at the very beginning, we have to be aware that we are here just passing by. The same way we cannot take anything physical, we cannot even take anything of our own. And we're not here forever. So if someone goes away before we do, well, maybe they're luckier than us. We don't know. We just have to, of course, it's impossible to avoid missing people you love. Even your own pets, absolutely impossible. But what can you do? And the more you connect with that love, the less painful it is. Because if you begin to get sad because, oh, I lost it, no, you're getting to dwell into all this. No, you simply love that person very much, and that's worth everything. Yes, right?
Of course. And I love you very much, by the way.
But I haven't passed away yet.
God forbid. Come on. But I do love you. And see, that's the thing. You talk about that deep stuff and then joking, right? But that's how you handle it. I do the same thing. It's fine. It's okay. But I love you. And I did want to bring that up. And now let's move to wrap this up. But you didn't mention something. You have a way of you let joy, you choose to, everyone has pain. You work through it and you choose joy. And that's right. That's what you always say. That you choose.
But as connecting one with the other, you know, at any moment we can be in a different dimension.
Of course.
And that cannot be an issue not to enjoy our present. And the problem is, Fred, that many people forget that the key to happiness also is to learn how to live in the present.
My biggest struggle, but yeah.
You begin to remember, to get so nostalgic about the past, or begin to get so anxious about the future. Why? Live the present and be happy with the present. You never know.
You're right.
What's going to happen next second.
So let's wrap it up now. And before I just wanted to say, what would you want to leave Miami? I know that you never would have been able to do any of this without Miami, you once said, but if you want to leave something, some last thoughts, something for the future, where we're going in general as a community, or anything you want to leave, and your legacy.
No, I don't want to leave Miami. I want to really.
No, not leave Miami. What do you want to leave with the viewers and the listeners?
I want to make sure the orchestra is safe for the next 50, 100 years. And
Okay.
that's my best legacy. I've been asked recently by important organizations, I don't want to name them for
Right.
for discretion, to become their conductor, as well as Miami. And I said, I'm sorry, but in terms of conducting, I'm monogamous. Let's be lovers. But I'm married to the Miami Symphony. I'm
Beautiful.
totally
And your
faithful.
soul's going to come back anyway. So reincarnate. So let's wrap it up with this, and then quickly, I want you to jump on here quickly before we end.
Really?
Just
No.
for the end.
You have
Eduardo.
to pay more for that.
No, stop it. Not yet. I want to say something to you, both of us, because you know how deeply I love you. I'm so proud of you. I'm going to pump up your ego more. But, underneath all the joking and stuff, we know each other very well, and we have a deep connection. And we joke, but we feel the love and the depth. You forget, yes, all the accolades. Miami's 100 most influential Latinos, Congress Medal of Merit, flag flown, I can go on and on, Grammy nominations, Emmys, but the truth is 60 albums, 50 orchestras. That's very impressive and it's amazing. But you know what matters? Underneath all that, you as a person, you're special.
Thank you.
You have impacted me for over 2 decades. You made a difference in my life. I am so honored to have you in my life.
Likewise.
I'm grateful we're doing this, and I know Eugenio just met you more recently, and
Eugenio is the
feels-
greatest. What would you do without Eugenio? Come on.
Trust me, believe me, I don't know, but thank you really on behalf of both of us for what you've given to this community. Him more as an adopted son now, but really believes in it. You have done very special things, and this community owes you a debt of gratitude and thank you. And I know you don't hear it a lot. Thank you, as your friend. As two people who want to say we represent the community, thank you. And so let's end it with, I don't know, what are we going to play? Come on. What are you going to play for us?
As Staying with Artists, which I'm so proud to be, we're going to, as a present to you,
Oh, I thank you.
I'm going to improvise music which describes Fred Menachem.
Oh, wow.
It's
I
gonna
got it
be-
ready for this one, right?
Well, I don't know. Let's see what it comes out and if you're going to be impressed or
Let's see your
not.
interpretation. I love you. That's the first time anybody's ever written a song for me.
Well, it's the first time anybody plays something so weird.
Thanks for doing this. I love you very much. Man.
me too.
Oh, you want to give it up? We gotta get out here. Come on.
Thank you. You are special. Fantastic.